pleasant Saturday to you. Welcome to a beautiful Saturday here at Lone Star Park. High temperatures are going to be nice and pleasant for a summer in North Texas. Certainly a big improvement over recent days temperature-wise. With Rick Lee, track handicapper and line maker, I'm Jim Byers. Thanks for joining us today. Should be a nice competitive weekend of racing. We had a little day off, a little one-day freshening. After the 3rd and 4th of July, awesome 14,000-plus crowd on the 4th. I had some formful races, Rick, on the 3rd and 4th, but that's okay, too. I mean, when you figure you got 3rd and 4th of July crowds, a lot of newcomers, show bettors, fans that might not be real serious horse players, and they tend to gravitate toward more likely winners, so that's fine. And there's always money to be made in some way.
Yeah, they like cashing tickets.
Exactly.
As a rule of thumb, and the racing, you want it to be formful. I mean, it's good when an upset happens, but there's usually a reason why upsets happen. So, it's good to have formful racing, and that's generally what we have here.
No doubt. Formful racing means horses are running kind of the way they should, and I think it's good for the sport in general. And like you say, we're just holders of the money as a racetrack. We don't care who wins. Horse players are playing against each other. In the pari-mutuel system, the track just gets a cut, so we do want to see people cash tickets. As for today, we've got 9 races. We're fast and firm. Let's get on to our analysis and selections. I'm going off the board a little in the first race. I'm going to be honest. I don't really dig the favorite in here, Empire's Best, for a couple of reasons, but his speed's going to be dangerous going a mile, and he comes out of an Oaklawn win. But the first race, a $5,000 claiming non-2 life. They're going a mile on the main track.
Yeah, I mean, on paper he stands out. That's why he's 7-5 on the line. Good early speed. You always like speed. He's proven at the distance a good thing. He hasn't run since April, but he's fired fresh at Fairgrounds on January 25th. So everything looks great on paper. The question is, why is he dropping so significantly down to $5,000? It looks like with his figures, he could have entered a non-2 for 20, which would have made a little more sense.
Yeah.
But, again, he's the speed, big drop in class. He's, again, proven around turns. Ronnie Cravens is having his typical good, solid meeting here. So I went ahead and took him because I wasn't sure, who else was going to be able to go. I mean, if Northwind softens him up, which is a possibility, or he's dropped down to 5 because, he's just not doing that great, then you could go ahead and take a chance with someone else. Did you go with Hard to Come By, or do you go with something even crazier?
I went even a little crazier than that. I went with Top Cop on the inside. Last time out, 69-1 a couple of weeks ago on the turf, going a mile and a 16th. Dropped all the way back to nearly last. In fact, was last at the quarter pole. Wound up passing a one horse late, but gained a little bit of ground relative to the leader late. But I'm throwing that out. He's back down with his friends. He kind of belongs at this level. He previously campaigned at the $5,000 and $7,500 level and wasn't too bad. He's an off-the-pacer. Mm-hmm. I am kind of banking on Northwind and Empire's Best canceling each other out. I don't know if that'll happen for sure. It can be hard to determine race shape sometimes. The thing about Empire's Best that worries me, on March 23rd at Oaklawn, not that long ago, he was claimed for $55K away from Brad Cox, claimed by Shea Stewart. Shea didn't even run him anywhere near that. They ran him for $25,000 the next time out at Hot Springs, and he was a voided claim by the vet. So something didn't go right physically with him as he pulled up, even though it was a winning effort. I hate picking horses first off a voided claim. Now they dunk him in for 5. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot of drops. So I'm passing on him, but I recognize fully that this could be some race where he strolls home because he is quick.
Yeah, and I think you got the right pace-shaped pick. I mean, Benzodine even has sprinter speed, so, I mean, the pace could end up being pretty fast. I just thought Hard to Come By was probably the sharpest of the late-running types, mid-pack. That's why I thought maybe you would land there, but nevertheless, you're going for a little more gusto. But the pace shape, I think, is perfect for Top Cop.
I think it's fair to say Broberg, his win percentage when he takes blinkers off and he takes them off Hard to Come By is not great. It's not as good as his regular. And let's face it, Carl's Barnes gone 9 whole days here without winning a race, 9 race days. That's unusual for him. He doesn't have a lot in. He's only got a couple in today, 1 in tomorrow. It's hard to get out of your doldrums when you're only, putting a couple in a day. But, maybe hard to come by. I'll turn the Barnes fortunes around. But I opted to go a little more off the board there. Race 2. I'm back on a more reasonable plane here. Texas bred maiden special weights at 5.5.
Yeah, Mr. Texas Charm. Interesting. I mean, closed out Louisiana Downs meet in 2023 with a really nice race and open maiden special weights. This is a Texas-bred special weight. Returned to Lone Star Park in May after a long layoff, caught a sloppy track, didn't run all that well. Then on June 16th appears and gets bet down to 7-2. Now, I didn't have a chance to look to see what I laid that horse on the morning line, but I'm basically off that first start back off the bench. I probably had the horse more like 10-1, I'm guessing. So this horse took, more money than I would have expected, and they were right to bet this horse because he got to the front, opened up a clear lead, and then at 6 1/2 furlongs got caught late. And it was 10 lengths back to third. So that was actually a terrific race that, maybe people sharper than me realized was going to happen. I think he's going to get to the front today again, and a furlong shorter distance from the inside post. I'm going to take Mr. Texas Charm.
Yeah, I mean, he was 10 3/4 lengths back to third. I love to see that angle. And the rest of them just don't really impress me all that much. One thing I did note, I used the 3 Sippin' Scotch as a third pick here. He's a 3-year-old. His half-sister, Bright Bling, did win at first asking. He has some other siblings who could not get out of their own way. But, we'll see. Maybe Danny Pish has enough foundation under this guy that in this field he might light the board. Who knows? I couldn't beat Mr. Texas Charm in that race, though. I got Obed Sanchez in the daily double today. Race 3. I had a hard time separating the 1 Illustrator and the 6 Mind Bolt. I went back and forth between those two. I see we both ended up on Mind Bolt. These are 3-year-olds, mile on the turf, good condition here, a 75,000 claiming tag available, which some of them are doing, or non-winners of 2 races other than maiden claiming. Or maiden or claiming.
Yeah, and we're not going to let Rodney Nelson have a 9-1 Calhoun winner this time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
he got in. That horse yesterday.
He got the right Calhoun the other day.
He did.
Yeah,
I picked that horse fourth and thought, I would have been happy on a normal day picking a horse like that fourth based on his form. I mean, he likes to win. He was trying turf for the first time. Rodney picks him right on top, gets a 9-1 winner.
Yeah, good for him.
There you go. So that made my fourth pick look kind of weak.
Yeah, I think his son even made a wager through Rodney. I don't want to say an 8-year-old went to the window and made a bet and get Rodney in trouble. But anyway, I think Mind Bolt's the one to beat in here. I mean, a terrific career debut at Fairgrounds, winning a maiden special weight race. Turf racing down there is really, really good. Returned to the 1 other than ranks, going 2 turns for the first time. Didn't run all that well. But then first start at Lone Star Park here on May 10th, going 2 turns. At this same condition, wins the race. He must have been in for the 75K, which Brett likes to do that. He's been doing that forever. That was a really nice win. So I'm going to go ahead and take him back. One thing I did notice, the pace at that Fairgrounds race, 22-4, where he folded his first time around 2 turns. Debt paid. I looked at the chart. Came from out of the clouds. A runner-up, Funny Flame, was like 5 lengths back, so he was more in the mid-pack. So that race was tailor-made for a late runner. And this turf course has been kind to speed. And, so Mind Bolt, not a standout, but he's the one to catch and beat, I think.
I think he might get a better trip than the 1 Illustrator who, was coming out of the Canterbury Derby just a couple of weeks ago and, shipping around. I mean, I know June 22nd, there's a little bit of a gap there, but not much. Illustrator, who's my second pick as well, clearly better on Lasix, I think. He's back on Lasix today. I think the Canterbury Derby trip was just a waste. He goes up there to run on the turf. It gets rained out.
That's a tough break.
He gets beaten 10 lengths. Now he gets back on Lasix. But I just think the 6 is liable to get a better journey around there. He's more forwardly placed. So I like him in this spot. We got a lot coming out of a June 14th race. There's, 5 of them coming out of that June 14th race. One thing I will note about Mindbolt, he did get an absolutely perfect trip last time. He was pocketed right in behind the leader, right off his rear end, angled out quarter pole, just like you draw it up. It's hard to get a trip like that 2 times in a row, but maybe he will.
Yeah, maybe he will. Fireball Birdie, I will mention, you don't get Asmussen at 8-1 very often. First time turf, first time around 2 turns. But Eric and Steve Asmussen have been on fire. This horse has sprinter speed, so if he takes to the turf, and he does have some turf pedigree, Fireball Birdie, I think he'll be the pace setter, and I think Mindbolt will be stalking him. So, I just want you to know that horse could be dangerous on the front.
Yeah, we had the same exact picks in that race. Race 4. Our first scratch of the day, number 4, Night Wind, is out of race 4. 6 furlongs. Texas breds. You can be in for $30K, which some of these are, and then there's another condition on here, non-winners of 4 or non-winners of 2 races other than. This is a really interesting race. I think you got an algebra that might be a little bit going the wrong way these days, although he can bounce up and surprise you.
Yeah.
You got your typical Texas speedsters in here, but, based on his last race, it was hard to go against Vietnam Victory.
Yeah, I mean, he loves this track, too. Vietnam Victory. Before he even debuted, I remember, thinking he was going to be pretty nice. As a 2-year-old, he trained here, won his debut. They went right into a restricted stake, won that one as well. Then he comes back as a 3-year-old, wins the Groovy Stake at Houston. So he won stake as a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and then his most recent start now at 4 was a really tough luck beat. He had a short lead all the way around the racetrack, opened up a little bit in mid-stretch and got zapped by Bobby Brinkley, who had the absolute dream trip behind, a few speed horses. Bobby just inherited the lead late. I mean, nothing against the win. I mean, he had to run to do it, but that was he was somewhat fortunate too. But I'm going to take the horse for course, who has good early speed. My concern is there's a lot of speed in this race, and he typically runs his best race when he's battling for the lead. He doesn't like to get too far out of it, and with Zavala and Algebra in here, he's going to have to run hard early, and that is my only concern.
Yeah, Bobby Brinkley was one of those, he was a 62.5 claim, 62,500 a long time ago. And he was just one of those horses that teased you, never quite won. But this spring, Bobby Brinkley's gotten very hot. And that was the second straight win, I think, for him. Or he's run a good second and 2 wins this meet. So getting beaten a neck, getting caught by him in that race, was still a terrific stretch drive. I, too, would not necessarily be running to boldface Vietnam Victory.
Right.
But I do think he's coming off a tremendous race, and hopefully he can overcome whatever speed competition he might face. One thing I will point out, if you were a fan of a big long shot like Champagne Stupor, he lunged at the start. It was a terrible start. I mean, you could just eliminate that last race from him entirely. Still don't think he necessarily belongs with these, but I just wanted to point that out. Algebra I've always been a big fan of. I don't think his start trouble at the last race was that significant. I don't know. I'm afraid Algebra might be losing a step. I hope not. He's always been one of my favorites.
Well, he's won 6 times here, and you probably picked him 5 of those 6.
Probably.
So,
maybe all 6.
Yeah, and you've been staying away from him this meet, so he's been good to you.
He has. He has really been good to me. Bling 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 also had a horrendous start in his last race. Race 5. I thought this was tough. Bottom level filly maiden claimers scratched the 5. She's a Shenanigan. Also scratched the 8. Move Forward Essie. That leaves a field of 9 here, and I just wrote wow on my PPs here. I ended up taking the favorite just because I just could not get around anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, Lady Athena has never sprinted against maiden, anything but maiden allowance or maiden special weights. It drops to the absolute bottom. was running competitively and showing speed against much better than this. Then they took blinkers off 2 starts back. I could see the one race experiment, but did not run nearly as well. Didn't show near the speed. And then they tried turf, once again. Yeah, you could say some trouble, but again, didn't break as sharp, didn't show the speed. Now back in blinkers, taking a significant drop in class. Danny Pish, goes to one of his go-to riders in Floyd Wethy. I think the stars are aligned. This is such a soft group that she's up against today. Draws kind of toward the outside. I don't know. I feel like I'd lose my handicapper's license if I tried to beat a big class dropper like this with all that she has going for her.
Yeah, I just think it might be her time. Horses always find a field they can eventually beat. Most, or some do at least. Blinkers back on's a good sign. The field is a very good sign. I did go back and watch that race where she had trouble. Sometimes trouble toward the back of the field. She was toward the back of the field. She definitely steadied off heels. And she also kind of lost her action. But she was pretty far back at the time. I don't think she was going anywhere. But hopefully back on dirt against this group with the drop and the blinkers back on. This needs to be her day, I think. Race 6. Let's get to the back half of the card here and the late pick 4, or actually the only pick 4. Non-winners of 3, $20,000 claimers. 1 mile on the turf. Scratch the 2 also eligibles. Bendetti Joe, the 11, and the 12, Miami Moonlight.
And as a clocker, I like it when I can select a horse that's based on, morning workouts or a workout. It gives me a little more of an edge on, people betting, at Woodbine who wouldn't have a clue what's going on as far as morning workouts go. 7, Julestown. I made this horse 6-1. Now, if this was a dirt race horse, it would be a much, much shorter price. I'm banking on the fact that, he's never run on turf, and generally people like more of a proven commodity. So I'm hoping this horse goes off at 6-1. The races at Oaklawn were quite good. Back-to-back second-place finishes. The buyer figures are as good as about any of them have run in here. Speightstown, the sires, he's a great dirt sire. He's a pretty good turf sire. So I think that's fine. Went from Ernie Witt to Sarah Davidson, so it's running for Sarah. Let me scan down real quick. Yeah, for the first time. But that on June 29th at 47-3, I had this gelding coming home in less than 24, 23.90. I just thought the finished really sharp, galloped out well. So I made a note, to maybe, see where this horse resurfaces. I didn't expect it to be on turf, but that only helps me get a little better price. And the trip should be just ideal. There's speed in here. There's some closers in here. And Julestown has the perfect running style as well. So, again, based on a very sharp work, first time Sarah Davidson, I'm going to take a mid-price here.
Yeah. I made some notes on Julestown. Number one, you probably don't care much about this, and that's perfectly valid. I don't know if my aversion to picking voided claims from their last start is real or if it's just a speculation on my part. But this horse, whether he was a voided claim last time or not, that aside, he's been very popular over the last year at the claiming box, which is a good sign to me because it means horsemen think they can win races with him. But I'm going to go with a bit of a long shot myself. And I did this before Rodney got us with that Calhoun first turfer yesterday or Thursday. And I'm going to take Changing Times. That bottom, non-winners of 2 $5,000 claiming win last time was one of the most impressive that I've seen in the meet. Completely unchallenged, well within himself, stretched out to 7 furlongs. Now he goes 2 turns for the first time and tries turf. I think he might be the best speed in here based on just, a scan of the PPs.
Yeah.
So give me the lead, going a mile, and let him try to catch him. The morning line favorite was and also eligible. It's now 7-2 from the heart. So I figure this is a good race to, like you did and I did, to pick somebody because they're all going to be decent prices.
Yeah, there's not much speed in this race, is there?
No, I don't really think there is. And you got guys like Jim Ned and whatnot that are good closers, but what are they going to have to close at? From the Hart's a good closer too, but he's going to be 15 lengths back of maybe a moderate pace.
Yeah, Julestown's fresh, so Julestown probably will be just stalking, changing times, and we'll see if you're picking. You're making a good pick because I don't know if Arkansas breds ever won a turf race in the history of horse racing.
Well,
so I like. No, I'm kidding.
They did once because you picked one once.
Yeah.
Richard Jackson horse.
That's
in the last
right.
race, three years ago, at the night, at night, and it came storming off the pace, and you look like a genius.
Yeah, it's nice to look like a genius once in a while.
Well, no, you look like it
but
all
anyway,
the time.
No, that's good. I didn't realize he was an Arkansas bred actually till now.
I forget the name of that horse, but we've seen a couple Arkansas breds win here. Doesn't happen a lot, but they don't run on the turf a lot either.
No.
7th race. 6 furlongs, $7,500 claiming fillies. No scratches here. These are non-winners at 3.
Yeah, and the inconsistent Tenses Lulu, hopefully get Broberg back going again. This horse won a maiden special weight race at 5/8 at Delta Downs this winter. Was bet heavy, won like it. Then 2 starts back here at Lone Star Park, and non-winners at 2 for $7,500. This is non-winners at 3, so just one class level below. Just totally dominated that non-winners at 2 field. I'm not sure what the thought process was with her last time. They tried turf. They tried Allowance Company. The horse didn't break all that great and just showed no interest on the turf. Now back in for $7,500, back on the main track, going 6 furlongs. Good speed. If she breaks alertly, I think she's going to be tough to catch. If she doesn't break alertly, she really doesn't like to pass rivals, so it could be a very vulnerable favorite if she doesn't break sharp.
I decided to work against her in this particular case. She did run that one really nice race back in May. That 65 buyer would probably blow this field away. I'm going to try Antifreeze. Drops out of the Danny Shiflett Scholarship, which was intended for the turf, rained off, running a mile on the main track, 21-1 against good Texas-bred fillies. Basically ran like a 21-1. She is a Texas-bred facing Open Company, but some of her T-bred races have been, I think, good enough to get in the conversation here. And her sprints, if you just isolate her sprints, have been pretty good. A couple of 4As, and she did actually win going a mile 70 as well. I hope I get a halfway decent price for her. She's a daughter of Matoli, sprinting, has a good style. So I'm going to take her over Bit of Honey, who has a lot of speed for Asmussen. Comes out of a bullet work on July 1st. Bit of Honey against this group might be, she and Tensal Lulu might get out there and duel. We'll see if they stay that way all the way around. They might, but they both have a history of kind of, backing out of it occasionally.
Yeah, and I do have pretty good works on Austin City Girl, who's running at a very low level. I mean, the workouts would suggest she could win at this level. I just felt like she's better on turf than dirt, and I didn't want to take the long layoff, and then a surface I'm not sure is her best. But I will say, if you're interested in betting horse, it might be in that 10-1 range.
Yeah.
Certainly been training well enough.
Yeah. Yeah, Mindy Willis can unveil these comebackers pretty strongly. Race 8. This is a tough one. Unlike that race a couple of races ago, I think this one, even with the 7 Bling It KK scratched out of here, this could have a pretty hot pace in this sprint. These are Texas-bred non-winners of 2 fillies, also scratch in addition to the 7, number 13, Copper Can. Bling It KK injected a lot of speed into this, but I think there's already, there's still, I should say, a lot of speed in this race.
Yeah, I went with, I end up with Flying First Class, draws in, 14 hole. Sometimes that can work to your advantage as a bettor. People don't pay attention. The horse draws in. I mean, a lot of times these numbers like 14, 13, they pay a little bit extra just because people can get sloppy sometimes, including me. But this horse ran well. I mean, won a maiden special weight race April 21st. Usually maiden special weight winners don't end up in non-winners of 2 for $7,500. Generally speaking, they're usually a little better than that. ran a poor race after showing speed May 17th when badly overmatched. Dropped to a similar condition last time out. Obviously, it was a bet down to even money. People were looking at that maiden special weight race. Dueled for the lead, beaten only a neck. When I had to remind myself, Cranky Sheila, who, how did she win that race? And I see she dueled with Flying First Class and beat her, which is not what I wanted to see, to be honest. I was hoping she was a closer, because then I was going to make the case that Space Pirate, also closed, and maybe Flying First Class, that was one of those deceptively strong front-running efforts. But the winner went wire to wire, so, there went that. I should have moved up Space Pirate just based on that, knowing the 1-2 finishers were on the lead all the way. So Space Pirate, I'm just telling you now that 8-1, that might be good value because there is plenty of speed in this race. I do like that Flying First Class drew the far outside, though. A lot of times horses with speed, when they're drawn on the far outside, they relax. Even if there's horses to their inside, they just relax a little bit better out there. But this is not a pick that I feel super confident in.
I don't either. I took a 15-1 morning line, the 9, She's Candified. I just think this bunch is kind of, you line them up, and, like Dave Appleton likes to say, you line them up 10 times, you might have 10 different winners. She's Candified, if you look in the Beaten Company, the first 3 finisher lines, has been often behind, but in the mix with a bunch of these. Baycliff, Rivers End, a bunch of horses in this race, they all kind of have been taking each other on. The one thing I like about She's Candified, if you're going to commit to the fact that there could be a good pace in here, and Flying First Class, who admittedly is going to be tough, but she is breaking from the 12 hole, which I don't mind, but she's going to have to really be, probably 3 to 4 wide and best in the race.
Probably.
Clearly best to win. Who knows? But I'm just going to take a horse that I'm pretty confident is going to close. Some horses lay off the pace, but they never really close. They just kind of run along with the herd. They never really gain. They might pass a couple of tired horses, but they're never really closing. Space Pirate, for example, she can close sometimes like she did last time.
Yeah, where did that race come from? That's another concern.
I don't know.
Space
She was
Pirate,
kind of one of those just run along with the herd bunch.
Yeah, she's either getting good and figuring it out now, which is what you hope if you better, or was that just kind of a one-off and
could be.
We won't see that race again? I do know the Beyer Par is 48. It's going to take a 52 to 55 to win this. So this large field, it looks like, is a little bit stronger than average field for this level.
Yeah. I think it is. She's Candified doesn't quite measure on the Beyer scale. She might be able to run a 48 if she really puts in a great effort. I don't know if she can beat these, but I just think she is a pretty reliable closer, taking a big drop in class.
Right.
And, you get a good come from behind rider in Diego for a hot barn. I think this is a race worth taking a little bit of a shot. Even though I do like her Flying First Class, I have her second as well. She's going to be tough. And, it doesn't matter that much that she's outside since she has good speed. I don't worry about the post too much being outside in sprints. But she's going to have to definitely have her running shoes on she's going to be a little wide. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Not that, Race 9. Here's a race at 1 1/16 on the turf where I'd be a little more concerned about being 3 wide or 4 wide the whole way because you're going 8.5 furlongs on the turf. The one-turn sprint's not as big a deal, but first level filly allowance here, and this is a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I pick Kentucky Angel, who, like She's Candified, the Beyer Par is 72. This horse hasn't run a 60 yet, but I actually love her turf races. It looks like she runs as fast as she has to be competitive, and that's kind of my hope. She's only a 3-year-old filly. It's kind of interesting when you look at my PPs. I had her at 15, then I moved her to 10. Then when I picked her, I said, "To heck with it, maybe 8." I kept moving her down. The more I looked at her, the more I liked her, because that 6th place finish was beaten 1 length. That's something that I think a lot of times, makes a horse pay more than they should. That was a very competitive race. And then when you look at her 2 races at Houston on grass, a really determined maiden special weight win. And then at this same level, beating only a nose. Now, again, those races at Houston, then the first one at Lone Star, the Beyers are a little low. However, I love her determined late run, and I just got to hope there's enough pace in here for her to get it done.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's a little pace, too, because I took the 7 San Mateo Cat. If you just, her dirt record was okay. I mean, she was 2 for 13, but in March they put her on the turf, and she was moved from 3rd to 2nd on a disqualification. Her last 5 turf races have been pretty good, including a close second to Halaga, who's been my favorite mare of the meet. I've kind of worn it out talking about her, but she's gotten very good. She only lost by a head to Halaga last time out. And I like the fact that San Mateo Cat, unlike a couple of these in here, like Paintbrush, for example, they don't drop out of the clouds and have to come from way back. She can be fairly forwardly placed. So I'm going to go with San Mateo Cat, who I think is getting pretty good. I like the fact that she's had what looks like a useful half-mile breeze since that last work. I'm going to give her a shot here, and I think it's a pretty wide open 9th. Over Paintbrush and Made an Offer. Cafezinho had just an awful start last time. It was just a fiasco of a trip. So she could run better. Definitely your Kentucky Angel. I mean, I love horses with a profile of, just closing tremendous ground, because it usually indicates late energy, and a lot of times that translates.
And she gets an extra furlong today, too, Kentucky Angel.
And that's,
which
go from 7.5 to a mile and a 16th. That is a significant.
Yeah, that's
extra
significant.
Furlong can be significant.
And then Calhoun, he's going to be on the lead again, perhaps with Made an Offer. Who's a lightly raced 3-year-old and getting better.
Yeah, so I don't know who goes with her, actually. I mean, there isn't, that much sprinter type or early speed.
No, there's really not. So who, maybe Shell Shock with Steve and Eric.
Maybe.
It looks like Steve and Eric have some priced horses today.
They do. It doesn't look like they'll win 4 today. They might win a couple.
No, they might win 1 and pay $30.
Yeah. Winning 2 or 3 like they happen every day might be a challenge for them, but I'm sure they'll retool and be back tomorrow.
Yeah, and Eric's in the lead now, has a pretty solid lead for the rider standings. Yes, and Harry doesn't have a mount today. So it's going to be very difficult, because he rode at Prairie Meadows last night.
Oh, did he?
Harry.
Yeah.
So I assumed he'd ride today for sure, since he rode in Iowa yesterday.
Was last night their Derby, or is it today?
It was their stake. I know they had a bunch of stakes yesterday.
I heard him talking about a big Derby or a 3-year-old race at Prairie Meadows on Sirius today. I didn't know if it was last night or today.
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, we'll do it again tomorrow. Doesn't feel like a Saturday since we raced Wednesday, Thursday, and took yesterday off.
That's odd.
But I'll remind myself that it's a Saturday, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
All right.
First post time in 30 minutes. Good luck today.